All right. As I've sort of indicated, I think there are two fundamental changes in IT. One is hybrid working, where the people are working from home, on premises, or in Starbucks, whatever. And the second is more significantly, the apps themselves are now widely distributed. Sometimes in legacy lands, some of them are still in legacy lands, more likely to be out in the cloud someplace for SaaS apps. So that's where ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, comes in because it addresses both of these needs. Um, and most large-scale organizations have already adopted ZTNA, but what we've done is we've right-sized it for SMBs, and we've built on top of it the capabilities for MSPs. And it is simple, it's easy to support, and it's effective security. It's cost effective. So let me describe what it is. There we go. Okay. So first of all, it is built and priced for SMBs. It's MSP friendly. It's a simple and reliable remote access solution to protect companies' networks and data in the age of hybrid work. And you can make real money doing it. So let's start with the issue of hybrid work environments. What's needed for that is you obviously need secure access to corporate resources. That means that all communications must be secure and encrypted end to end. And ideally, the same zero trust must apply to workers whether they're on premises, traveling, or working from home. And with WorkForce, what we've done is we've built into it also some robust management reporting, because if the employees are not in the office, you don't really know what they're doing, and you kind of like to know that. And so we built in some management reporting to show you what the employees are doing when they're working. It's designed for distributed networking, which is certainly the case for today, requirement for today. So it provides direct access to all company networks. There's no longer a need to go through the legacy LAN in order to get out to the cloud-based apps and so on. And we provide end-to-end encryption, so that even when the apps are out in the cloud, we encrypt that all the way end to end. Whereas with the current environment of a legacy VPN and firewall, generally the access is unencrypted from the network, from the LAN out to the cloud, and we provide end-to-end encryption. We have a discovery mode which automatically catalogs all the resources that your employees are using, and that's greatly facilitates the implementation. And once all the resources have been cataloged, you can switch to operating mode, which neatly and simply, as I think you'll see, enforces, I should say, the ZTNA permissions. And so the users can easily access authorized resources, wherever they're working, whether that's in the office, at home, or traveling, and wherever they're implemented on the cloud, VPN, LANs, or the SaaS network, or the SaaS apps. We built it for MSPs and SMBs. So it has to be easy for MSPs to implement. It has to be easy for your technicians to administer. And it has to be easy for the client and their employees to use. Now, what I mean by that is that we support both fully managed, co-managed, and self-managed accounts. We have a multi-tenant portal which allows your technicians to see all of the companies that you service. And the employees themselves have a simple menu to access their resources, again, wherever they are, the LAN, cloud, or whatever. It's affordable. There are high margins for the MSPs. And we wanted to make it easy to buy as well. So there are no contracts, there are no minimums, and there are no fixed costs. And we're committed to being channel only. Now, there's a lot of hype around zero trust in our industry, and our industry loves buzzwords, and that seems to be the buzzword of choice these days. But the phrase zero trust comes from the concept of zero trust network access, and it has a very specific meaning. There are very formal standards for ZTNA from NIST, from Cloud Security Alliance, and others. They're big security documents. They're over here next to my desk if you'd like to see them. But I spent a lot of time looking at that stuff. And to me, the concept is really pretty simple. First of all, every access to each IT resource must be specifically authorized. Secondly, no other resources on the network can even be visible. So that you cannot, and if you can't see the resource, then it's pretty hard to hack it. And then, as my friend Eric said to you earlier, it's like, we are familiar with a firewall around the entire network. This is like bringing the firewall down to each individual resource.
Yeah, I stole that phrase from you.
I know.
So thanks.
Okay, you gave me credit. That's okay.
Yeah.
So ZTNA is widely accepted as a new paradigm for IT security. It's endorsed by Gartner and Forrester. Large-scale companies have already adopted it. And there's even, interesting enough, there's even literally a presidential directive requiring government agencies to move to ZTNA. And of course, as you probably know, there are successful products like Zscalers, which enables the ZTNA, but they're built for the large companies, and they're frankly overkill for SMBs. They're too large, they're too difficult to use, it's too difficult to implement, and they're way too expensive. Now, the market opportunity, it seems to me, is that SMBs know that they're at risk, and they know that they need a solution. So it's a wide open market. So that I believe your customers can easily afford, and you'll be able to support it very easily. So here's how it works. Let's start with a network. We have networks have firewalls around them to protect them, and then they have a bunch of resources in back. And literally the only change we make in their networks is we install a small software gateway, an agent on the network that it can be on one or more servers on the network, and we automatically roll over between them. And that gateway reports back to us, to our controller, the information about what the public IP address is, and also where the DNS is, which is all we need to know in order to access the resources that are on that network. So then let's switch to the other side. Let's start with the user who is on a device, and he makes a request for one of the resources that's back on our network. And that request goes to our VPN server. The first thing the VPN server does is it authenticates the user and the device. So we authenticate not just the user and make sure the user is authorized, but also that device has been authenticated and is authorized to access the corporate resources. If so, then the VPN server relays that request onto the controller, which checks against rules that have been established by that company or by the SMB MSP, excuse me, for what resources that individual or that group can access. And if the user is authorized, then the controller says to the gateway, I've got a user here who wants to access resources that are on your network. So please make an outbound connection from the gateway, the gateway, out to our VPN server. Now, both of those connections from the gateway are outbound connections, which means that theoretically all of the inbound ports of the firewall can be closed down, and thereby greatly increasing security. So this, by the way, is the classic ZTNA diagram that is published by NHTSA and Cloud Security Alliance and Gartner and others. So with that, Let's go into the demonstration, and I'll ask Fred to take over in just a minute. What we're going to do, we're going to take you through what is virtually an entire implementation process. We will first show you how we define networks, then how we register users, then how we define networks, and how and how we install the gateway, generate a gateway, and how that's installed, which reports the access details back to our network. And then we'll show you the discovery mode, which discovers the resources that the users should have access to, and we'll apply the ZTNA permissions. So with that, Fred, I will stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Kent. Let me grab the screen here. Okay, so what we should be seeing on your screen right now is a look into the remote workforce dashboard that you as an MSP would use to manage the platform for your clients. So the first thing that you'll see is an overview of all the companies that you all have defined that are using the platform. And it's very simple to add a company. We'll click on add a new company, and you can see there's a few different tabs here. So we ask you to provide a company name, time zone, a logo if you want them to stand out on that listing of companies. I'd like you to pay attention to this particular tab, the operations tab, because there's a few interesting things here. One is there are different account types that are available as part of the remote workforce platform. Kent is going to talk about them in a little bit more detail after the demo, so I will leave that to him. But we're going to define this new company as a ZTNA, which is what we're talking about today. As I mentioned in some of the opening comments, you have the opportunity to tailor your pricing that you're charging on a per user basis on a per client basis. And that's how you would configure that right here. You also have the opportunity to designate how you want to manage the remote workforce platform for this client. And that may be something that you're fully responsible for as the MSP, or you may want to share that administrative responsibility with the client. And so you select that here. So fully managed would mean that you're going to manage all of it for them. Co-managed means you're going to share the responsibilities. Self-managed means that they're going to take on all the management responsibilities. Finally, we have the notion of company-owned devices. And the reason why this is important is that this influences the behavior of the secure remote workforce client that will reside on end user devices. So we delineate between basically BYOD devices where the users are bringing their own device to work versus company provided devices. In the case of a company provided device, the policy that's enforced is that the remote workforce client will always be running on that client. And the user will not have the ability to deactivate that. In the case of a BYOD situation, well, of course, since it's the user's own device, they want the discretion to be able to shut that client off, and they will be able to do so. And I'll show you that as part of the demo. What's very important to realize is that if they shut off the remote workforce client, they will not have access to the company resources that are protected by the platform. So that's an important consideration. But let's take a look at a company that has already been set up, and we're going to go into the aptly named demo company here. And I want to show you, continue talking about the settings here. So one of the things that I didn't mention when you're setting up a company is that you have the opportunity to establish what's called operating mode. And so one of our ease of use features that we've baked into the DNA of the platform is that, of course, even in an SMB environment, you have a number of resources that you're trying to protect access to. And while we do give you the opportunity to manually define those, we want to make it easy for you. So wouldn't it be great if the platform could self-discover and catalog those resources by watching what users are doing in the course of their normal business? And so we have a mode called Discover Mode. And so when you onboard a client company and you authorize a few users to start using the platform using our secure client, you can observe the resources that they're interacting with in the normal course of their business, observe them for a week or 2 weeks, and you can automatically catalog those resources. And then you have the opportunity to grant permissions to those resources as you see fit. So all of that is facilitated via Discover Mode. When you're done with that automatic cataloging of resources, you would toggle the company into operating mode. Once the company is in operating mode, that basically means that their permissions are being enforced. The zero trust permissions are being enforced. So we give you a lot of flexibility, as you would like, to really get a new client onboarded. So once we have a company onboarded, the next natural thing, oh, I'm sorry, there is one additional thing I wanted to show you. And that is also, we have created a life cycle of emails to help you to onboard your new client companies. And there's 3 emails in the sequence. The first is a welcome email. So when you bring a new user onto the platform, they're going to receive that welcome email. And basically, it's going to explain to them what a zero trust network and architecture is all about, and why the company has decided to embrace that, and to make them aware that they need to download a secure client onto their device. The second email that they receive is actually going to be the registration email for them to onboard their first device. And essentially all that contains is a download link for them to download the secure client onto their device. And then thirdly, for the additional devices that they can add, and the platform allows them to add up to 5 devices, there's a third email that helps them facilitate the addition and registration of those devices. So you'll notice that I've mentioned devices a lot, right? So when we're thinking about zero trust, as a platform, we have invested a lot of time and effort in thinking about how we're validating actual end users, but also specifically the devices that they're going to be using to access the resources. One other thing that I want to highlight is that every one of your client companies has a different communication style. They're going to want these emails to read, consistently with that style. And so these are all templates. So you can go in and you can modify the text of all of these emails on a per customer basis, as is appropriate for their communication style. But once we've set up our company, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add users. And so in this demo company, I have a bunch of different users that are already set up. I'm just going to show you one of them. So every user has a user-friendly name. It could be their first name and last name, whatever you like it to be. They're assigned to a group. And what's important about this is that the group that they're assigned to becomes the foundation of the permissions of assets that they have access to. So this logical grouping of assets by function is another ease of use feature for you to be able to easily administer groups of resources and the users that access them. Also, of course, email address, their password, and phone number are details that we collect about the users. And the users, as you can see here, you have the ability to change their password as well. I also want to highlight here, this demo user has registered one of their 5 devices. And so you can see right here what device that they have already registered and its unique name. So that's an effective way of just keeping track of the traction within the user base and how many devices are they propagating to. Okay, so that's a view of users. Now, once we have users, right, the next thing we want to think about are what assets are they going to be getting access to? And that's a function of us defining the networks upon which where these resources live and the resources themselves. Let's start with the network. So it's very simple to add a network. Well, I'll take you through that right now. So I'm going to call this network test 12.5. Okay, and you can define what kind of network this is. And so this gives you the opportunity to distinguish between whether it's an internal network like a LAN or any of a series of external networks. So there may be a SaaS network that you're defining, or one that resides on AWS or on Azure. So you have the ability to delineate that there. Now, Kent mentioned when he was giving the overview of the architecture that the architecture relies on a very simple software agent to reside within the network and to basically broker the request to the resources. So that's called a gateway. So when you're defining the network, you're also going to define, okay, what kind of server is this gateway for this network going to run on? Is it going to be a Windows or Linux-based gateway? And then when you save the network, what's going to happen is it's going to prompt you to download that gateway and just install it on the server in that network. So that way you have the basis for the zero trust control being established through that gateway. Now, I'm going to show you what an established network looks like after we've installed that gateway. So why don't we take a look at the headquarters LAN? Now, you may recall when I was adding the network a moment ago, I didn't specify any network information, right? I just specified high-level information, and then I installed the gateway on that network. What the gateway has now done is it has provided a lot of the networking information about that network for me. So I don't have to worry about it. The gateway is communicating with the back end and is providing us with those details. And of course, if you ever needed to, you could also reinstall the gateway. Now, the purpose of defining these networks is so that we can also associate resources that are going to be securely accessed on them. And so let's take a look at resources. So adding a new resource is very simple. Now, remember what I mentioned a few moments ago when we were setting up the company, there was that concept of operating mode. And if we're in Discover mode, we have the ability to dynamically define resources based on what users are accessing. However, we also have the ability to manually add them. So if we take a look at a resource that has been already configured, you can see this is also very straightforward. You assign a simple resource name to it, let's say thermostat in this case. What kind of resource type is it? In this case, it's an IoT device, but it could be a website, it could be an application, it could be a number of different things. A host name, what network it resides upon, and its networking information. Now, what's also very important here is that you see that we are assigning this device permissions. So we are identifying what group of users in the enterprise should have access to this resource. And since it's a thermostat, it's appropriate that the CEO has that ultimate power of controlling the temperature for the staff. And so the CEO group is what has access to that thermostat. Okay. So that's how we define resources. There's a few other things that I'd like to show you about this back-end administration, and then I'm going to give you a bit of a user's view as well. So in addition to enforcing the zero trust security, we have a few other dimensions of security that we make available. So you can enable malware filtering on the platform simply by toggling it on or off. And if you have a specific blacklist of domains that you'd like to enforce, you can also enforce those here as well, simply by adding them here. You may have other solutions for doing malware filtering or for doing blacklists as well, but we also offer that capability here within the platform. We also give you insight after you've gone through and you've defined these networks and resources to understand what is actually going on within the platform in relation to those resources. And you can see you get a bird's eye view here of a variety of alerts. So that might be something as simple as, hey, a new user has been registered to this company, or somebody is trying to access a resource that they don't have permission to. So that could be an indication of something naughty is going on, or simply that you have to look at permissions and understand what's happening there. So you have the latitude of reviewing that information here within the platform. But we've also built the platform with integration in mind. And so we've built this in a way that we were also able to integrate these alerts with third-party monitoring systems, which you're probably using one or several of those kinds of platforms in your business today. You also have the opportunity to review things like network activity. So for all the networks that we've defined for this particular company, you can get a high-level view of activity that's going on there. This is a demo account and a demo network, so there's not a lot meaningful that we're going to see in this particular report, but just know that you have that ability to kind of get take a pulse check of what's going on within the client companies that you define within the platform. So I've talked a lot about the back end, and I've talked a lot about the companies. Let me show you what a user view looks like. So I've just clicked on the Remote Workforce Secure Client. Now, this client is what is installed on every end user device that is enabled to interact with the company's resources. So you'll remember I mentioned when we were setting up the companies, we had that email lifecycle sequence. Well, one of those emails is encouraging them to download the client onto their device. And when they do, this is what they would see. So they can clearly see that their communications are encrypted. They know what local network they're connected to. They know what local point of presence within the remote workforce platform they're connected to. and that will always be the closest, highest performing point of presence for them to connect to. They can see what kind of encryption they have enabled, which is 256-bit. And what I'd like to point out here, you may remember when I was talking about whether the employee has brought their own device to work or they're using a company-provided device. In this case, this demo company is set up as a BYOD company. So all of the users have the ability to deactivate this client because they're using their own devices. If they were using company-controlled devices, then they would not have this ability to deactivate the client. Okay. The last thing I'd like to show you is I mentioned the power of the discovery mode, right? For the platform to dynamically observe the resources that end users are accessing when you're just onboarding that customer, to understand and what resources are in the normal course of business relevant to your end user. So if I were to go over to a browser window and just type in, and obviously we have some test websites set up for this purpose. I'm going to try to access testwebsite1.com as a user. Well, I see that test website 1 is a website that's hosted on our headquarters LAN. If I try to access test website 2, I see that that's a website that's hosted on a satellite LAN network. If I try to access test website 3, I see that that's a website that is hosted on AWS. Now, again, we're operating in Discover mode here. So I'm going to jump back into the administrative view, and I'm going to go look at the resources. Now, you may remember a little while ago when we looked at this resource screen, none of these 3 websites that I just tried to access were listed in this list of resources. But because we're operating the company in Discover mode, the platform was able to detect those resources and add them to the resource list. Now, for whatever reason, you may decide, you know what, I don't want those resources acceptable, then you can simply delete them here, okay? And so once we've dynamically cataloged all the resources that are appropriate, you can simply go back into the settings for that company and move down to operating mode, and you can switch to operating and save that. So once we have switched to operating mode, at this point, the zero trust permissions are enabled and the platform is fully functional, securely controlling access to the resources on your networks. So that's a high-level overview of the platform. I'm going to turn things back over to Kent.
All right.
Thanks, Fred. That really reflected how simple and easy you've created the platform for use by MSPs and for end users. I mean, they're just going to click and connect, and either they're going to have access or they're not going to have access based upon the rules that you've applied to the group that they're joined to.
You know,
Exactly.
and I think that, if I may, I think it also applies to the technical staff of the MSP. I think we could show this. I'm going to make a kind of bold statement. I think we could show this to your technical staff, and show this demo to technical staff, and they could manage implementations without further training. That's not bad.
Yeah, if that's all it is that means that we as MSPs can deploy and manage this solution without having the costliest dragon slaying engineer having to manage it. That means that we can manage it at lower levels, maybe level 1, level 1.5 technicians is what I'm hearing you say, Kent.
You know, frankly, when I was designing it, I was thinking about think about an HR person and think how much we can do in this entire process that even an HR person could do. And except for the installation of the gateways, I think we've largely accomplished that. So let me go on and let's talk about the product itself. So we have in the product we have 3 levels of service depending on what the company needs. If the company has just a simple set of requirements, they may be able to get away with just the basic VPN, which encrypts all the communications. It does have malware filtering and custom block lists, and the reporting for time on and off the network. But its MSRP is $375 a month per user per month. Each user gets 5 devices. more likely your customers are going to have more complex networks, and they're going to need the enhanced VPN, which includes direct access to all of their networks. We also then include the detailed reporting of the user's online activities. But the ZTNA it is also pretty simple, as you've seen, and it provides secure access to resources, to authorized resources, and protects against unauthorized access. As I say, the MSRP ranges from $375 to $15 per user per month. And they can start with a VPN and upgrade if that's the way if that's the journey you wish to take your customers on. So we have a special offer for those of you who are attending this webinar. You can install it for free and test it internally. And if you do that by January 31st. We will offer you discounted pricing with extremely good pricing. The full ZTNA, as I said, is $15 per month in MSRP, and we'll only charge you $5 for that. The enhanced VPN, the basic VPN, has similar 66% margin, so this can be a very profitable business for you. And remember that we wanted to make it very easy to use, easy to buy, excuse me. So there are no minimums, there's no contract, and no fixed costs. We don't charge for internal use, and we have generous volume discounts. Your customers will get free 30-day trials. And one more thing, we'll give you a $300 bonus when your first customer starts up. So to get started, to start with your free NFR, just click on that link, and we'll set up your team and so that they can test it and give you white glove support. And when your customers are ready to go, we will continue supporting you all the way through.
So Kent, I want to make sure that we understand this offer that you provided here. It's a free NFR for our attendees to use. It comes with free 30-day trials for our MSP partners to deploy and use for their customers.
Yes.
And you're offering a $300 bonus for the first customer that every one of our attendees signs up to the platform.
And discounted use discounted use. Don't forget.
And discounted use. Holy cow. So I've just chatted in the chat the link to get your free NFR. So folks, get your free NFR and begin internal testing with the white glove support from Kent and Fred's team. And let's roll into some Q&A. Okay. Is there anything else, Fred or Kent, that you might have forgotten to mention here? Some additional tidbit, because holy cow, who wouldn't want to take advantage of this? And you know what? I'm going to do it myself because I'm tired of the VPN I'm using, guys. So thank you for the offer. I appreciate it. But let me just ask, there's a couple of questions here in the Q&A box, and I saw some stuff going on in the chat. And Larry, thank you Larry Doyle for participating and asking questions. I know you're losing your connectivity, but we appreciate that. Anyone else that has any questions that you would like us to answer, please drop them in the question and answer box. But here's one. So what size customer is this solution right for? I think the question is about capacity and scaling. So will clients outgrow it, is what I'm sensing here. So how would you guys answer that?
Ready, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So we feel that remote workforce is the right solution to address this zero trust security needs of the majority of SMB customers. And we've stressed throughout the demo, right, the fact that we've tried to build around simplicity. We are definitely not trying to be all things to all people, and you can hopefully see that through the ease of administration and some of the flexibility that we've built in. Now, there may be the minority of customers that have very specific perspectives on security within their enterprise. And so they may have some exceptions to how we've architected the platform, and we're certainly happy to discuss those. But simplicity is a powerful concept, and customers do not outgrow simplicity. No matter what phase of their growth that they're in, simplicity matters. And we feel that we've delivered a solution that honors that.
Here's another one. How do partners typically sell this product? Are they selling it kind of as a standalone product, or are they selling it the way I prefer MSPs to sell solutions, bundling it in their services so that they can really increase the margin that they're realizing for this service?
I can take that one too, Kent, if you don't mind. So, we recognize that every client relationship is different, and so MSPs are going to want flexibility in that regard. So we've tried to design the platform to flexibly complement whatever offerings you may currently be offering to them, and to bundle them or to offer this as a standalone offering as you see fit for your business. Right? We can't dictate that to you. We have to be able to honor how you prefer to operate. And so what we do want to do is we want to make it easy to facilitate that, right? So we've built a platform with integration in mind. And so we feel that integrating with third-party platforms like ConnectWise and Kaseya are helpful to that mission of supporting how your business is going to be run. And so we've built the platform with that in mind.
And here's one more. So you've compared ZTNA technology to legacy VPNs and LANs. How would you compare it to RDP, like what's being offered through organizations like TrueGrid and others?
So let me take that, Fred. So RDP is basically still a point-to-point solution, just like a legacy LANs. It just uses different technology. And TrueGrid is a bit of a step up from that because it's cloud-based, and therefore it at least eliminates the backhauling through the legacy LAN. But it does nothing to protect the resources themselves inside the network. And so therefore it is certainly not a ZTNA. Since once the users are inside the LAN, they have full access. Excuse me, the network, whether that's a LAN or whatever, they have full access to all the resources.
That's a great point, Kent. And it makes me think about a comment you made when you were showing us the ZTNA kind of diagram, the workflow, and you said that no open firewall ports are necessary to support remote workforce ZTNA. So does that mean that, and I'm tagging onto a comment that Larry just made in the chat, does that mean that, at a certain point, firewalls are unnecessary? I would probably advise against that myself, but how, so if no open firewall ports are necessary, how much simpler does that make it for MSPs and technicians to manage security?
I mean, a firewall is still necessary in order to protect the network from intruders. But a parallel to that is, just like, for example, we also while we protect the communications, we encourage people, we tell people you need to continue to maintain your antivirus and other endpoint, either EDRs or whatever. And we work, and those two, but the EDRs and such things do not have any protection for the communications, and that's what we bring in.
Yeah. And I'm watching the chat here. So I've got Larry French and Larry Doyle really helping us with their commentary.
Okay.
And so this is defense in layers, right? So firewall and then remote workforce ZTNA for those road warriors, and even those remote locations, right? So satellite locations and even internal. That's what I found very interesting as well, is you're actually helping implement ZTNA from folks that are within the LAN as well, correct?
Yes, we feel strongly that the same cybersecurity should be applicable wherever the employees are. So that means that even if you're in your office, You've built up some cybersecurity to protect people that protect the resources when people are in the office. But the ZTNA concept really should apply whether they're in the office or accessing it remotely.
Awesome. Well, I just launched our final poll. So everyone, I want to thank you, Kent and Fred, for demonstrating this first look solution to our attendees and to the channel and allowing me to introduce you to the channel. I'd like to thank our attendees for participating today. Just give me a quick look at our final poll here. I hope that each and every one of you got value from today's conversation and have gone ahead and clicked the link to get your NFR of Remote Workforce ZTNA. All right, everybody. That concludes today's webinar. Thank you again, everyone, so much, and we'll see you on our next one. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you, everybody.